tried out some different projects. One has been quite a traditional way of using critical response, where I had a group of 10 students and we met during 1 year, 8 or 9 times. And they were artists and respondents, and I facilitated the sessions. And of course it developed during these sessions because the students got very good at doing it. And then we, after a while, tried to experiment a little bit about the form. And of course it's just slipped into my regular teaching, the mindset.
In my practice as a teacher, I already started using the critical response, and I used the first and the second round. And already I think working with bachelor students, to them it's so valuable already only to do round 1. In my classes, we share video materials and we respond like what was meaningful, what was interesting. They feel like it's so rich to be able to not express an opinion, but rather the things that I noticed, the things that I observed, the things that touch me or are remarkable for me. And it's always very much valued also by the student that is bringing the material, because there's so much more than they think that is. Only working with the first round is already remarkable and exciting.
One thing that this non-judgmental thinking have learned me is that it's an ongoing research and learning. So as a facilitator, I have also admitted to myself and the group that I'm still learning. We talk about that. We are together learning this. And when things come up, I have been more okay with not really knowing and saying, okay, this is interesting, let's think about that, I'm not sure, and give maybe the question back to the group, how would you think about that? What do you say about this question? And that's also new for me, to be insecure about how to solve things, but in a secure way.
I found CRP tip very useful to organize my own thoughts during teaching. So that means already that I take a bit more time. And taking more time myself means that I create more space for the student. Teaching becomes more like a dialogue.
We are so used to, let's say, hierarchical relations, also in the teaching, but also in the organization, that we are used that there is always a boss, and then it goes down and it goes down and it goes down. Similar in the educational situation, there's always a teacher, he knows better or she knows better. And this is what I call one-way traffic, and the challenge is to make it two-way traffic.
I think to let go a bit will also show the group and the students that we share the idea of that we are all learning. We are in this together. You equal the balance between the different roles, and I think that also eases up the talking and the communication.
Opening up the space for the student and supporting them in learning to ask their own questions, I think that's amazingly important. For instance, when I ask the student questions about, let's say, how have you been working on this? I get an insight in their thinking, and that tells me something about how they do things at home. I am convinced that, of course, a good voice or violin or piano lesson is very important, but that's not where they learn to sing. You give them information, you work with them, and then they learn to sing at home in their own studio, where they study. That's where they learn it. And if they are not able to question their own work, what actually are they doing when they study?
I thought maybe to use critical response process in the lessons would take much more time, and because fixing is much quicker. But what I realized is that at least one of my students has developed much faster, because he practices in another way. He takes the work back and he comes back and says, I want to do, what shall we do, how can, and then this questions back and forth really makes him so active and the development has gone much faster than I expected.
I really want to start using it more, and also in the master program and amongst teachers also.
In my institution, HKU in Utrecht in Holland, I'm head of a quite large research group with teachers from music, from visual arts, from theatre, and also from the education, and even some trainers that work in the business. And with this group of 20 people, we develop new concepts for teaching, and working with them, I work very closely related to critical response. So when we renew our practices and we want to stimulate educational and institutional change, there it is that I work with critical response.
Because I don't teach, basically I use it often for something that might not be the first thought of using critical response. I use it mostly to support curriculum development, to support problems or questions we have in leadership or the faculty development, and mostly also in how I like to work as a team with my managers, my heads of departments. And so I use it not as a step 1 to 4 system, but I often use the steps singled out to support a dialogue within a meeting, or to see where we actually, on what page are we now? Are we giving feedback? Is there a concept? Is there an offer to refer to? Are we still making an offer? Can we also think about the positive things? It gives me a vocabulary as a leader to have a dialogue, a proper dialogue about content and about goals and demands.
I see it not as the steps. Of course, it's a structure, but basically it's an aid to be more human. So doing the steps is a way of life. It's how do I want to live? How do I want to relate with people? More than just a practical instrumental tool. It's broader than that.